Alright, let's... It looks alright, let's get it up on my computer. Got right here. Well, there we go. How does it look? Nope, out the speaker. Alright, let's get this running. Alright, there we go. Sounds not great, it's okay. I'll make sure I talk into the... a little bit closer. Actually... Let us see if we have better one. Demon time. Yeah, basically it is demon time, isn't it? For many people, it must be just becoming demon time. Right. Computer. Oh, let's keep away from that light. Give me a second. Sorry, I'm just getting this set up. That's better. That's... Oh. Alright, one sec. Charger goes round, and then... There we go. Hopefully my phone is charging. I don't want this stream to randomly cut out. Let me grab some of your comments quick. Does that look alright? Angle's a bit weird. There we go, that's fine. Can you guys hear me okay? Test, test, test. Bonsoir, bonsoir, Halo fan. Alright, I'm moving it back. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you guys. You can hear me okay. Okay, I know the mic on the phone is at the bottom. Alright, let's try this again. 3, 2, 1, phone. There we go. The light is, oh, it's just like, can you see what I'm talking about? The light is just behind me. Sorry, we're having some technical issues here. Yeah, you're good. Okay, I don't want this light in the way though. If we go down a bit more, okay. Alright. I got a better idea. Give me a sec. Maybe that's worse. How about no light? Alright. There we go. I don't even need it. Why did I even have it on? How's my Tuesday? It's fine. Actually been pretty relaxing, to be honest. Haven't really done much. Just exercised. I don't know if this is the right question to ask on the stream. Does anyone do weight training or stuff? So I was doing bicep curls, and I just think I've overdone it, but I really hurt something in there, like this part of my arm. It really hurts to like bring it up again. I've been icing it and stuff, but it's really annoying. Because for those of you who've been following me for a while, you know my knee is also dodgy from a football injury, so not been fun. I've been feeling pretty crappy about myself. When you exercise all the time, use high weight, low rep. Muscle rupture. I don't know if so. It's 20 kg dumbbells, and I've progressed like slowly up to it. But yeah, very annoying. Yeah, I want to talk about this anti-imperialism stuff. It's been driving me a bit crazy. Some of the discourse on Reddit, and I was arguing with someone who said you can be an American patriot, an American's a patriot and a socialist, and I was like, you just can't be that. It makes absolutely no sense, and we'll get into it in a sec. But yeah, hope everyone's good. Hope everyone enjoyed the video yesterday. I'm gonna make a video about 9/11 tomorrow. Mainly just talking about it. It's 20 year anniversary on Thursday, so I've got to make my video tomorrow. But yeah, something that I don't know. I'll talk about the Hassan stuff, what he said, because I wanted to talk about that clip for a while. I don't know why I didn't talk about it when it came out. I was doing YouTube. I'm a bit weird with stuff like that. So I'm just getting out some music. Aquarium. Okay, great. So I'm just get your comments up now. All right, sorry, on your comments now, lads. Demon Time, Skylight Flex. Am I related to the actor who plays Waymar Royce in the first episode of Game of Thrones? I don't believe I am. I look just like him. All right, I'm gonna get up a picture of him. I'll decide for myself. Waymar Royce. People say I look like Post Malone is what I get the most. I think it's just because of the beard and the mustache. I don't think I actually look like him. How the hell do I look like this guy? I look fucking nothing like him. I've insulted whoever said I look like this Waymar Royce guy. I'm not related to any famous actors, if that makes you feel better. France is saying, as an American, I'm tired of patriotism. Now when I see the flag I pick up, I'm like, we're losers. I mean, I wouldn't say you're America. The problem with American patriotism is that America are losers. I think it's just like an absolutely horrendous thing to be patriotic about, which I'm going to get into a bit because people are saying like there's a Marxist history in the US to be patriotic. And I'm just like, these people were crushed by the state time and again because they clearly weren't in line with what the state wanted America to be, and most people supported that. But I'm going to get into that. I'll just wait for a couple more people to join before I go off on a mad one. Called Chud Shades Moron. They're for my neurological issues, so I don't give a shit what you think they look like because I just wear them when I'm streaming. Yeah, I've been getting some quite like Chrissy, probably like a fake account, but in terms of like just some virgin posting like a woman with her tits out as the PP, but I've been getting some weird comments lately. That just reminds me. So basically, one of them, someone. This is what pisses me off, right? People are so happy to throw around just like wild allegations, and maybe this is like part of becoming like a content creator who's growing in subscribers. People were saying on my last video, I was basically like dog whistling to anti-Semites because allegedly in the video, every time I saw an Israeli flag, I was calling it a Jewish flag, and I would never have said that and like watch myself say it and keep it in the video. I wouldn't say it anyway. So I went back and watched the video because I did actually have a picture of a Star of David on one of the memes that the Taliban was using. But then I realized I never even used this meme, so I didn't make that mistake. The only meme with a Star of David in it was one with an Israeli flag, and I said it was an Israeli flag. So I go back to the comment and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I never called it a Jewish flag. I called it an Israeli flag. Like, here is the timestamp. I didn't call it a Jewish flag. And he's like, oh yeah, fair enough. And I'm like, what do you mean fucking fair enough? You literally just accused me of being like an anti-Semite, made some long-ass comment about stuff, and then basically admitted I didn't say it. And then another one was saying I support Hamas because I'm for Palestinian liberation. And then the guy backtracks. I was like, when have I ever said I support Hamas? He's like, oh, but that means if you support Palestinian liberation, that means you support the PLO and Hamas. And that, by extension, that means you're actually anti-gay rights because the PLO and Hamas especially are not for gay rights. And I'm like, talking about the liberation of people from oppression doesn't mean you have to agree with the leaders of their movements and stuff on everything. It just means you want them to like have a better life, not in oppression. And then there's small caveats of course, there actually are gay Palestinians who will suffer more under, an Israeli occupation. And then another extension of that is, in my view, if you have a group like Hamas, which thrives on like misery, poverty, oppression, that's how it gets support. The only way you beat like Islamic fundamentalism or even just get progress generally is education, higher standards of living, where people are more comfortable, where radicalization can't thrive as much. So I support Palestinian rights just generally, but like, can they not see that if you want more gay rights in Palestine, then you've got to end the occupation first, because this situation just helps more like fundamentalism thrive, because it's a good way for groups like Hamas to hijack it. And also, I've talked about this a lot in the past. Like groups like Hamas thrive because people think the PLO sold the Palestinians out to the Israelis. So there's that like side of it as well. Anyway, it just must be like a part of being like a bigger content creator, where you just get like loads of fucking weird shit thrown at you. Someone else was talking about like me generalizing Satanists and saying it's like racializing Muslims, and I'm like, literally because I referenced the Order of Nine Angles and neo-Nazi Satanists who go and fight for Al Qaeda and stuff. They're like, oh, don't generalize. I'm like, please shut up. Like, I don't. Satanists are not oppressed, so let's not play that card like you're the same as like Muslims or something in the West. Um, anyway, just like it's very annoying just seeing like really crazy. But it's just frustrating. It's like another person. I don't know if this person's here because they seem very apologetic. They go on some big rant at me in the comments based on my title, and I forgot what video it was. I'm gonna look it up now. They go on some big rant at me, and I'm like, did you like literally watch 2 seconds of the video? Because I literally didn't say any of this stuff. Which one was it? It was a Lauren Southern video, right? I made about like just her debates on with like I don't know, Destiny and Lance from the Surf. And then the comment was a big rant at me saying how I'm like eating the left and I'm attacking Lance and all this crap. And I'm like, literally watch the video. I literally do not even criticize Lance in it. I just like showed what he did and said what I praised him and what the problems generally with that sort of format are. And then they're very apologetic. And I was like, if you're gonna go off on someone and like basically make them look like an awful person, at least watch what they are putting out in terms of content wise, or just don't make shit up. Because I can't, I do read the comments. I'm not just gonna be like, some guy basically saying I'm an anti-Semite gets like 5 upvotes, and then maybe people don't watch the whole video, think, oh, Kavernacle was like conflating Judaism with Zionism or something like that. And I never do that. I've made it very clear on my channel like so many times. These aren't the same thing. Like I think I'm better than that than most people. Anyway, the only thing like I can sympathize with like people like maybe Vosh and stuff is that because loads of people make up shit about him as well, but it just like is it just something you've got to accept as you're growing as a content creator? You just have to like accept people are just gonna say loads of full shit about you all the time. Um, yeah, FDR, the socialist. I mean, the thing is, this is the point I made. I'm going to get into this in a sec because there's a couple more of you here now. I just want to read some of the comments. Um, so chew on this while I read some more comments. If you think you can be an American socialist and a patriot, please explain to me also how you can be a Northern Irish socialist patriot and how you can be an Israeli socialist patriot. You can obviously be those things, but please tell me how that makes sense in like the ecosystem of like socialism. Please explain to me the like maybe like just advocating for equal rights generally in one society. How does that fit in with like settler colonialism? I want people to think about that for a sec. Zack Snyder is still Chad for calling out geeks and gamers. I was actually thinking about that the other day. I'm going to make a video on that. Is it Shang-Chi and the anti-SJWs and stuff? Fuck socialism. Why am I getting so many weirdos in the comments? How do I even find this stuff? So Fabian saying, I'm an ethnic minority in Poland. The leftist nationalism we had here is fucking awful. Nationalism almost always leads to bigotry. It's almost inevitable. Hey, Cyrus, thanks for joining. Don't know if you're still here. I love America and the Jews. All right, fucking great. Sorry, just cleaning the chat up. Are you going to talk about, what's this person say? Sorry, I'm just reading some more comments. Why are people giving her a platform? That's basically what the video was about. Conservatives are desperate to be oppressed, yet they always are. Hey, Gabrielle, Kavernacle, your dog whistling being a lefty. Are you going to talk about the Texas abortion ban? I mean, probably not. I can if people want. I don't know what you really expect me to say that hasn't been said by everyone. Not worth your time. Yeah, I guess. It's still annoying though. Yeah, V has come to saying the American flag represents the US state and all the baggage that comes with it. Exactly. It's without a doubt a symbol of white supremacy and the legacy of US policy abroad and domestic. The Chad Sam Cedar versus the Virgin Steve Crowder, that was funny as well. Yeah, Blasphemous saying there's a lot of people defending Jackson's take by saying people haven't read theory when they themselves clearly haven't read any theory. So much projection with these people. I mean, okay, I'm someone, I'm not going to sit around and read like loads of Karl Marx and stuff, but here's the thing, I had to study all that stuff for university, especially my master's, because that was more political science. Theory is okay. Some of it you will read and you'll be like, damn, that's, you read some of Lenin and you're like, damn, like, that is really good. But you read a lot of Karl Marx and you're like, this is so, like, fucking boring. Like, what a slog. Do you know what I mean? Like, theory isn't anything. And what, and also in terms of, when I'm gonna talk about this stuff, I'm gonna make the difference between left wing nationalism for revolutionaries and left wing nationalism patriotism for settler colonial states. Because here's the thing, okay, a few more comments and then I'm gonna get into it all. No, Ola, I don't think patriotism is just supporting well, even if it is just supporting your country, I think that's problematic anyway, because nearly everything America does is really shitty. So, A Watson, I mean, it used to be really hard to actually eat Terry chocolate orange. You had to really smash it up or cut it up. Yeah, I don't see how someone could be a socialist and not more globally conscious. Exactly. Could the US exist without any kind of slavery or worker exploitation, both domestically and internationally? That's my point as well. Patriotism, yeah, okay. So as a little segue into talking about patriotism, that so with patriotism, you have to have an idea of what your country is, right? And nearly all the time, this is like a mythicized idea of the country. So you have some people who think and I'd say this is like liberal patriotism, and you see it a lot. They think the founding fathers were like enlightened people, more progressive than the average person back then, and all they wanted was freedom. The revolution was about freedom. It was about freedom, but it was about their economic freedom. Nearly every person who was in the part of the founding fathers, very rich white person. Also, majority of them also massive slave owners. George Washington was very, very rich, a career soldier and stuff. So if your view of patriotism in America is like this stuff's all amazing, and the ideals of the founders were amazing, you have to remember the context in which it was written and who wrote these documents, right? Just saying that, oh, all this stuff doesn't have anything about the Declaration of Independence doesn't talk about race. Well, it doesn't talk about race because it's not advocating for the equality of races. It's advocating for white people essentially, and that's the context you've got to remember. So liberal and okay, here's another context. This is like an example of liberal patriotism. So I live in London, and London, for all its problems, as like a very very cosmopolitan city, it's probably like a better example of a city that is more, I guess, has less issues with being this like massive melting pot, even though it has loads of issues. I mean, comparatively to the world, and in London, you have all these different languages and cultures, and the liberal side of that, say, let's extend this to the country. You live in London, you see this. The liberal patriot in the UK would be like, we're so diverse, we have all these languages, all these cultures, isn't this amazing? And we all get on. And even though we have our problems, that is what we should aspire to be, right? And then that's like a liberal view of patriotism. Same with America. Like, we've had our issues, we've had so much awful things happen in this country. But with Joe Biden, we're going to remember like the founding fathers' words. We're going to like all look out for each other as Americans, do our best as Americans. We are all Americans. Doesn't matter what skin color you are, whether you're transgender or whether you're gay or straight or anything like that. We're all Americans, and that's a very liberal view. But it's also, in my opinion, complete bullshit. So let's get into that. So that Jason Jackson Hinkle was saying he's a proud American patriot and a socialist. And in terms of settler colonial nations, like I said, Israelis, Northern Irish people, or by extension, Unionists in Northern Ireland, right? Even if you take the liberal view of that patriotism, you're lying to yourself about what America is, because and another extension of this argument is, oh, we had people like John Brown who militantly freed the slaves. We had, like, is it the Battle of Blair Mountain, is it? When you had militant workers, like, fight the National Guard. And in the 1870s, you had the railroad strike, right? And that's what we should be inspired by, those American patriots. And they say these guys are patriots, but I'd argue it's the complete opposite. These guys weren't patriots because the US, they fought the US government for workers' rights. That's not patriotic. You're fighting the government. You're fighting your nation. We don't say the Confederates are patriots. I know some people do, but we don't view them as patriots. So why would we view the communist agitators as patriots? They're not patriots, because there is nothing in the founding documents of America, really, when you think about the context. I know it is, the Bill of Rights influences the Declaration of Human Rights of the UN, but that's also like a mythicized view of what these guys were advocating for. America was founded, is it like 13 states, right? It's a settler colonial nation. It was founded at the expense of Native Americans to start with. This is not America. This is not the Europeans' country. It's the Native Americans, the various different tribes. It's their territory. It's not the Europeans. So it's already founded on that, and there's like 13 states or so. And then think about Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Texas, all these other parts of America that the US then went on to invade. So how can you be patriotic about it? The fundamental essence of America is colonialism and imperialism and racism, and that has been maintained till today. It's not like something that happened and then there was a communist revolution and the new communist leader of America said, we have so many sins in this country, but now we're going to be united, we're all equal, and we're going to create a society for everyone. And then the communist America looks so much different from the old America. When you have a private prison industry and the war on drugs that extends basically slavery of minorities into the 21st century, when you have a two-party political system that all advocate for war, are all fundamentally racist and everything like that, when you have America that is still engaged in more imperialism, it's not just at home anymore on the American continent, it's now worldwide American colonialism. That is the essence of American colonialism. And I see sometimes weird anti-imperialists simp for Teddy Roosevelt. And I'm like, how are you anti-imperialists simping for Teddy Roosevelt? This guy was an imperialist. When did they take the colonies off of Spain? That was under Teddy Roosevelt. That wasn't under, was it McKinley was assassinated and Teddy Roosevelt took over? The Philippines, places like this. These became US colonies under Roosevelt, so why are you simping for this guy? So America has always been colonialist, white supremacist, and racist, right? And this is just talking about being a patriot. I understand the argument. You have to work within the framework of what you're given, right? So it's probably not realistic to be like abolish America. I understand that, but I'm not arguing about that. I'm arguing about like the ideological stance that I am a patriot about this country and I'm a socialist, which makes no sense because even the liberal view of patriotism, like I said, is mythicized. And socialists aren't liberals. We recognise the expression and exploitation. So why are we saying we're patriotic for a country that was literally founded as like these landowners, capitalist paradise for the white, wealthy, rich people who own slaves? And like I said, if there was a point in America's history, say like 1945, where it significantly divulged, like completely went a different path, I'd understand that. But America fundamentally has not changed since its inception. Yes, people have got more equal rights, but there's still systems to keep certain populations. The genocide against native peoples is still ongoing today. African slavery in some form is still going on today. And that's just a fact. It takes a different form, but it's different. And then also, America as a nation, I talk about this a lot in terms of global capitalism, for example. People don't talk about global capitalism, right? I understand Americans, right, do have a pretty rough compared to maybe like Scandinavians. I made this point in my David Patman video, but America and the West in general is rich because of global capitalism as a legacy of European colonialism. So essentially, what that means is the status quo established in the European colonial period still remains today. Sure, some other countries have joined, and I made this point as well. China and India have bought into this system. Places like Saudi Arabia obviously jumped into bed with the US back in the 1930s. There are examples of this, but by and large, it's the same. America and the Western countries are rich because in capitalism, there's always a winner and there's always a loser. In society, like as a microcosm, America, UK, there's winners and losers. In the global system, there are winners and losers, and the losers pretty much still are African nations, which are exploited disproportionately by all these places. There's other places in Asia as well. Bangladesh comes to mind, places in Pakistan, poorer Asian nations as well. But Africa still is, exploited by predatory things like the IMF and World Bank. These were established in 1944 by the US, and the US has the major control on those institutions, which basically go into extremely poor countries and say, right, you can have a bunch of money, but you've got to privatize your whole economy. And that's something that's controlled by the US. So with all this in mind, please someone explain to me how you can be a socialist American patriot. It makes no sense. There is nothing redeeming about the US as an institution which has lasted for the last, what is it now, 250 years nearly. Is it 250 years or 207? Is my math wrong? What is it? When do Americans say it was founded? I don't know, 250 years or whatever. Anyway, because that's what I'm saying. You can say I'm inspired by the communist Americans, but let's remember, communism was crushed in America. Especially after World War II, communism was crushed with the mass approval of most Americans. Communism was also used as a front to attack people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and civil rights leaders. All these things that you say you like about America in the past, civil rights leaders, communist revolutionaries, people for workers' rights, by and large, all these people were crushed by the American state with the approval of most American people. Please tell me how being American and being an American patriot is synonymous with being an American who was a Marxist and agitated for Marxism. And like people also say in the comments before I started, not all communism has a massive, outward-looking focus. Was it Trotsky and Mao were big internationalists, like they wanted global revolution and stuff, but I don't know if it was Lenin who wasn't as keen on global revolution as these two were. Sorry, let's have some coffee. But sorry, what was I saying? But now people flip. I was arguing with someone before. So it's the same with Israel. Israel was founded by a bunch of socialists as well. People who'd fought the Nazis, people who were in the Red Army, people who were in various different partisan organizations, right? These guys were socialists. They also didn't believe Palestinians had any right to this land. And these people became the leaders of Israel throughout the first, 30 years of its existence, and they were, a lot of them were secularists as well, so they didn't really even believe in God or anything, but they still bought into this like more patriotic Zionist ideology about the Jewish right to this land. So we have examples of patriotic socialists, and it doesn't end very well for the people who don't fit into that idea of the nation. And like people were saying before, that's why patriotism is ridiculous. It's all about an idea of a nation you've constructed in your head, which either might exist or maybe it doesn't exist, but it's also very exclusionary. So even if you're a socialist Israeli, it's very exclusionary. Who fits into that? For some Israelis, Natalie Portman's an example. Natalie Portman's a liberal Israeli. She believes Israel can be for everyone who lives in it. It's not just for Jewish people. But then there's still the question in the back of your mind, well, what about the occupied territories? And what about the land that's been stolen since 1948 and stuff? What do you do with that? And that's probably a very difficult question for someone like her, even though she's a liberal, where some Israelis just say, no, Israel's just for Jewish people. And that is like the nation idea they have in their head. And it's the same in the UK. We have this, is the UK for English, British people, or is it multicultural like it is now? Is it for Muslims? And that's the question. Liberal people will say UK is for everyone. We're very multicultural and we embrace that. It makes us better. But then a lot of right wingers will say, I don't want Romanians here. I don't want Polish people here. I don't want Muslims here. Britain is for British people. England is for English people. But that's their idea of patriotism. It's in their head. We have a certain set, and that's liberal patriotism. Liberal patriots will take London and be like more progressive, more diverse. That is what UK should be. Where someone maybe in Cornwall will say more Christian, more white, more traditional, or Devon, and that's their idea of the nation. So that's why patriotism is ridiculous, because it's all either a mythicized construction, or in America's case, you're essentially lying to yourself for what this nation is. The same with Britain as well. Britain's a bit of a different one in terms of Britain itself, but it's also a nation that engages in settler colonialism and has historically. Now, all right, sorry, I got a donation, so I'm just going to take the comment before moving on to my second part. Jacobin Walsh, thanks so much for the donation. Really appreciate that, $5. American students are taught how to see the nation. They're propagandized to believe that America actually stands for beliefs, socialist beliefs. So I think, thanks so much for the donation, Jacobin. I think what Jacobin is saying here is that, in terms of, let's say JFK maybe, or your Bobby Kennedys, or even though I think Bobby Kennedy was a lot better than JFK, it's like this American Peace Corps for essentially, the stuff JFK set up, like Americans. It's your destiny to go around the world and help people for liberty, life, and all this other shit. And basically, yeah, like a lot of Americans are taught that America is this, what is the thing Reagan said that Obama also said? Something on a hill, church on a hill, what, beacon on a hill? I don't know, some shit like that. Like America is like the promised land, essentially. It's like the height of humanity, height of freedom, height of intellect, and a city on a hill, there we go. And that's Obama quoting Reagan. Completely different people, but what they share is this idea of America being better than everywhere else and being the best and standing for the best virtues and stuff. So I like what Jacobin says there, because it's something that's true. Now, I want to flip this around. So people were also arguing me. I'm saying socialists shouldn't be patriots because it's ridiculous, especially for settler colonial nations like Northern Ireland, Israel, the US, places like that. They said, well, a lot of socialists, maybe like revolutionaries like Ho Chi Minh, Fidel Castro, other people like that, were quite patriotic. So how do you explain that? So I think there's a complete difference from being a patriot for a settler colonial nation than being a revolutionary patriot in a country that is forging a national identity. And that's the thing, forging its national identity. Cuba had somewhat of a national identity as the Spanish colony, right? But there was no modern Cuban identity. Think about it with American identity compared to America being British colonies. So for example, with Cuba, obviously Fidel's Cuba was more racially integrated because there's black soldiers in the Cuban Revolution. He had a black person who was quite prominent. I forgot what his name was. You see pictures of him when they go to Harlem and stuff. So he's creating this new Cuban identity, right? Which is based on socialism, based on equality and everything like that. So I understand doing that. You're creating your nation's identity. You're not trying and maybe, yeah, but you'll take some myths, because there was some Cuban revolutions against the Spanish and stuff. So you'll take some of that and be like, yeah, we have this in our history, blah, blah, blah. But it's by and large not dependent on being George Washington was actually great and we love him and he was the best person ever, not a racist, not a slave owner, not a rich white man who really only cared about economic interests. He was just this godlike figure. That's not what Fidel Castro was doing. The same with Ho Chi Minh, right? Vietnam has essentially been had been on and off a colony of the Chinese, the French, and the Americans, kind of. So Ho Chi Minh is fighting. He's we Vietnamese have a long storied history. Think about, I don't know, the Trang sisters. Think about the kingdom of Da Viet when we fought a guerrilla war against China in the 1100s. And they will take these myths of national identity. It helps a lot more with Vietnam because it's an ancient country. But then Ho Chi Minh is forging a new Vietnam. He's even quoting the Declaration of Independence in 1945 after the end of World War II, because he's trying to forge a new national identity. Now, that is completely different. You're trying to forge the socialist identity of a country so you can establish a socialist nation. That is completely different from being, I'm an American in a country that is the most powerful country in the history of man. does worldwide colonialism, is probably the most destructive force on the planet, is built on colonialism, genocide, and slavery, and I'm a patriot about that. There is no, and like I'm saying, you can't take the minor incidents of Marxist insurrection in the US and be like, that was a true American, that what those Marxists who stood up for workers' rights, because historically America has not cared about those things, and the citizens of America, brainwashed or not, have not cared about those things, and that's how they could crush communism domestically so easily. And that's why, for example, in Britain, it is a good example of you having, and this is another part I'll get to as well. So in Britain, I can understand maybe a bit more socialist patriots in Britain. I think it's stupid because of English history, but like I can understand it because you have Keir Hardie, this socialist miner, starting this party, which then becomes massive in domestic politics and wins elections, and they become the prime minister. So it's clear, at least to a lot of people, there is socialism inherent in like the British people, and they're voting for this stuff, and there's solidarity in the working class enough. They can enact this stuff, but still, I'm not buying. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying I understand it a bit more. But then obviously, you have even Clement Attlee, who's a good Labour Prime Minister, also engaged in imperialism. So this is how destructive patriotic socialism. This administration that created the NHS also engages in imperialism worldwide, because these people, even though they are socialists, and I'm sure they were socialists and they believed in stuff, they're also patriots. So they believed in British interests, and that's how patriotic socialism, even with real socialists controlling the government, this isn't just a fantasy like in the US. Clement Attlee and is it Ned Bevan, something Bevan? It's a guy who created the NHS. Real socialist people, but the patriotism they embrace and engage in, it limits their focus to one place, and it also, like global capitalism, there's a winner and a loser. And Britain, despite having a socialist government, still a capitalist country. Nye Bevan, thank you so much. So that's why I feel like okay, if you're going to say and this is why I make the distinction. If you're going to make the argument that to actually win over working class people in American politics, you can't publicly be like very anti-nationalist, anti-patriotic. If you're making that argument with me, I can understand that, because you probably have a bit more legitimacy to stand on. But saying that like, if you are a socialist, you must be a patriot, or these things can go together, I think it's totally ridiculous. And like I get it as an electoral strategy, but these people on Twitter weren't saying that. They were saying there's many of us. It's like, shoe on head, who's become like increasingly worse and worse, it seems, has also said this stuff about being a patriotic socialist or something. I'm like, do Americans even understand what socialism is? Like, are even left-wing Americans or supposed left-wing Americans, are these guys even so brainwashed they somehow think that being an American patriot and socialism can go together, despite the US controlling the global levers of power and literally destroying countries' economies through privatization through the IMF? Like, okay, but that's the thing. If I ask these people, all right, Hawaii, what if Hawaii wants to be independent? Puerto Rico, are you going to disband the IMF? Are you going to get rid of NATO? Are you going to get rid of the World Bank? Are you going to get rid of all these institutions? And I'm sure they might agree to get rid of some of them, but I'm sure there'd actually be some hesitancy there. And that's what I mean. Patriotic socialism is counterproductive to actual socialism, because like with the case of Labour in the 1940s, yeah, you create the NHS, you create many good things, but in terms of like engaging in global exploitation, that's something you'll still happily do, because the limit of your socialism the limit of your socialism is the border, basically, which is another weird thing. Just, here's the thing, there's something people need to understand. I can accept the reality of nation states without being like pro nation state. It's the same with like, someone used to say to me like, if you think Israel should exist, you're a Zionist. And I don't think Israel should exist, like God-given right to exist or whatever they believe in. but I accept it exists. It's a different thing. I accept nation states exist. I don't agree with like countries, borders, everything like that, but I accept they exist, and I accept there's like a framework we have to operate in, like politically and like globally, and I understand that it's like the global capitalist system. I'm an anti-capitalist. I still have to live in capitalism. I've got no choice. I accept it exists. Doesn't mean I can't be an anti-capitalist, and that's a weird thing people get. It's like you can say to win over the working class, we've got to like use this rhetoric about American patriotism and how it's actually patriotic to be a socialist or something. I understand that as like a tactic. I don't understand that as like a core belief to socialism. And it like saying like, oh, read theory about some weird revolutionaries like 150 years ago who were these things. And like I said, the context matters. Set a colonialist, patriotic socialist, that is just a ridiculous concept. I'm going to take some comments now. Patriotism is mythology for nationalists. Yeah, I agree with that. Sorry, I'm just reading through these. See you later, Coogan. Elefunk saying patriotism, as it ties to national identity, is counterproductive to helping actual people in a nation in any socialist way, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, generally, I agree, but I can understand how it can be used as a tactic, I guess. Oh. Give me a sec. Just make sure my phone doesn't run out of battery. Alright, I'm all done with my coffee now. I just don't want to get it all over my face. Alright, let's take some comments. Shoe is trash. I'm a patriot for AOC. Luke saying I'm overlooking the civil rights and the 60s and stuff like that. Yeah, but if you know the history of America, you know all that stuff was crushed, like by Nixon. Because what happened to the Black Panthers, it was totally destroyed from the inside by the FBI. Like the reason that, like, you think, oh, what happened to the Black Panthers is because so many of them flipped because the FBI had them by the balls and maybe they'll infiltrate the Black Panthers. Malcolm X's inner circle was completely infiltrated by the FBI. That's the thing. This is the American state. And think of America after those things. Think of America after the 60s and 70s. Who did they vote in? Nixon first, then Nixon again by a landslide, then Jimmy Carter, but then you get Ronald Reagan winning 2 massive landslides, and then George Bush. And the only way the Democrats get back in is being corporatist like Bill Clinton. And then you have George Bush, Jr. for 8 years. So I'm just saying, like, the liberal stuff in America, it's great people did that and they should be proud of themselves, and Americans could be proud of this part of American history, but I would say it's not synonymous with patriotism. There was nothing patriotic about them. They were fighting the state. The Black Panthers weren't patriots for America because they resisted oppression. Black nationalism, as we understand it in a lot of places, comes from this period. These guys, Malcolm X, is he an American patriot? He said basically we can't live in this country. We can't live with this white supremacist system. It's just never going to be fair for black people. Let's read some more stuff. Yeah, Francisco's saying that people try and defend Washington owning slaves. To that, I would say, like, you can read. I say this a lot. I need to find this specific passage. There's a passage of a priest who was at the Vatican when they brought the first slaves to the Vatican, and he said, when he saw the slaves in the Vatican, he felt really sad because he saw families being split up. But he said, I felt good because they would all be Christian and they go to heaven, so that's good for them. And it's like people knew slavery was wrong. Like when it happened in the mid 1400s, and the Portuguese did it for the first time. People knew it was wrong. and people knew a lot of this stuff was wrong before. You know, America wasn't the last country to ban slavery. I think it might have been Brazil, but like, you know, you can't defend it by saying it's at the time. I used to think that a bit more, and I'm willing to make some exceptions with some people, but not with people who are massive slave owners. And the late 1700s, there were plenty of abolitionists in Britain and stuff, for example. This wasn't like a foreign concept. Alright, reading some more stuff. Manifest Destiny, kind of bullshit. Okay, I thought you were saying it was kind of bullshit. I'm like, it is bullshit, not kind of. Um, Fuck JFK. See on here. Okay, let's get some more comments. True Can, thank you. The best part of Assassin's Creed Rogue is you kill George Washington's brother on his plantation. Luke saying, I feel, yeah, I'm always like, how did the kids who grew up hating Nixon get old and vote for Trump? It disgusts me. Yeah, it's weird. I wonder if Nixon could have actually survived impeachment. It was only because the Democrats controlled the House, I believe. Otherwise, he probably would have been fine. Hi, Kavernacle, how are you? Yeah, Maurizio, I'm good enough. Thanks for asking. Just trying to have a normal week this week. But yeah, just a lot of things going on in my life at the moment. What's it? My schedule's just been thrown a bit on the end. Like, I haven't streamed 2 times in a week for like 4 weeks or something. I normally do it every week. I'm really enjoying this stream. Very informative. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. So sorry, I'm reading some more stuff. Saudi Arabia abolished slavery. I'm talking about African American slavery, I guess. I'm talking about like the slave trade of Africans, I think. But maybe I'm wrong there. Hope you get to stream this Thursday. Yeah, hopefully I will. It's because the person I live with next door normally has work quite early, so I have to come down here and stream, which is fine. But that's why I chose to do it on my phone today, just because setting up the mic down here is really annoying. Oh, here's a fun topic actually. Let's talk about this for a bit, I guess. So I finally watched Oliver Stone's JFK at the weekend, and I knew a lot about it, right? Like I knew about the Cuban mafia stuff. And I knew like Oswald Mosley, yeah, he's another bad Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald. I knew he definitely didn't like shoot JFK like 2 times or something. I knew that, right? And I knew he went to the Soviet Union and then he defected. What I didn't know about Lee Harvey Oswald is that he was like, and I was reading about this afterwards. He was so clearly in like the CIA or something. Like it's not even like up for debate. The stuff about him coming back for the USSR and not even being arrested, and he came back with his wife from the USSR, like crazy. And then obviously working in like living in a place which is like the heart of the intelligence community, and then obviously also interacting with loads of far right Cuban exiles, and I'm like, God, like I knew so much about I thought I knew so much about the Kennedy stuff, but I guess the Lee Harvey Oswald stuff has always massively been a blind spot for me, because like I basically knew he didn't do it, but then it's like when you watch this film and then you read up about everything on it afterwards, you're just like, this is so clearly like it's just crazy anyone bought it, and even like the investigation it is like botched so bad, and it's actually made me really want to read the book by Smedley Butler. But what I would say is like the main problem with JFK film And I think my main problem with Oliver Stone, I love Oliver Stone's work, and his audiobook is so good. This guy's had like such an amazing life. Like it's crazy, you know. His dad worked for General Eisenhower in World War Two. He was on his staff, like top senior guy on General Eisenhower's staff during World War Two. And then Oliver Stone's granddad fought in World War One for France. His mum lived in Nazi occupied Paris during World War Two, and then he was like really well educated. Then he went to teach in South Vietnam, and then he did 2 tours of Vietnam and the Vietnam War. Comes back to New York, writes his screenplay, and then he gets taught film by Martin Scorsese. And he said in his class, he made a short film, and Martin Scorsese like absolutely loved it. Then he was taught acting by Frank Langella, who's like a famous American actor as well. And then in his whole life, like he wrote Midnight Express. He gets the Oscar for it, and he's talking about like meeting like John Wayne, Jimmy Stewart, and then he's like interacting with like Mick Jagger, Michael Caine, obviously like really close with Al Pacino. And he's talking about like writing Scarface. And I'm just like, I don't know if you guys get this. When I'm listening, he narrates the audiobook, and I'm listening to this. I'm like, this guy has like lived his life to the full, and he's had like such an exceptional life. It makes you feel so shitty about yourself. I'm like, this guy is like not only incredibly talented at writing, he's a great filmmaker, and he's had an amazing life in terms of like history and like being linked to history, and he's interacted with like some of the most famous people in American cinema, and it's just like it makes you feel like so shit about your own life because you're just like, damn, like this guy's achieved so much, and look at me in comparison. Um, but also, yeah, okay, my main point of Oliver Stone, for all his anti-imperialism stuff, he seems to really idolize JFK in a really weird way. Thinks basically like JFK was not an imperialist essentially, and his conclusion is that LBJ was involved in the assassination. I don't buy that for a second. I don't think LBJ would have been involved. I think he obviously benefited because he absolutely hated JFK, like completely different backgrounds, completely different politics. But LBJ did not give a shit about foreign policy, really. He was happy enough to go along with the Vietnam stuff. But what the film makes it seem like is Johnson wanted to do this. Johnson just didn't understand foreign policy like JFK did. Johnson only cared really about domestic policy, and that's why his achievements are social reforms and stuff, civil rights. Obviously that was started by Kennedy, but obviously war on poverty and stuff. This is what Johnson cares about because he grew up extremely poor. He didn't care about this stuff, but Oliver Stone seemed to draw the conclusion that LBJ was involved in it, and that's what I'm just like. I like the film because it raises so many good questions about the military-industrial complex. But I also completely reject that JFK was killed for Vietnam. I reject that completely. I don't think JFK was. I think JFK was assassinated for firing people in the intelligence community and not invading Cuba and not wanting to invade Cuba. I think that's why he was assassinated, either by, well, probably Cuban exiles. In my mind, what I think it was Cuban exiles working with the Italian mob, obviously, because they used to run Havana before the revolution, and probably some rogue CIA people who were probably acting as like, intelligence assets. I bet it was, in my mind, I think CIA people were embedded with the mafia and the Cuban exiles, and they helped organize it. But I don't believe in so much this massive and what I also believe is, I believe higher ups in the intelligence service got wind that people in the intelligence were involved in this assassination. That's what I believe as well. I don't believe the conclusion that LBJ somehow had a direct hand in this. Even like I don't believe this was like a direct CIA operation. I think it was people, you know how like intelligence agencies often work. I think it was a lot of people who were involved in the CIA, in mafia and far right Cuban circles, who helped plan this with them, and that's what I think happened. But yeah, I don't think it was for Vietnam, and I don't think it was LBJ at all. That's like where I think Oliver Stone goes completely off the rails, because I'm just like, when he had that big speech with Kevin Costner in the courtroom, like I can, because I know Oliver Stone pretty well now from hearing him narrate his own book and stuff, for like 15 hours. I can just hear Oliver Stone talking, and yeah, I reject the conclusions, to be honest. But also, you know, what it makes me think about Epstein way more. So something that was really bad in the Netflix Epstein doc was it didn't go into his first trial enough, where Alex Acosta, who became Trump's Labour Secretary, coordinated with Epstein's defense team to get him the best deal possible. So in my mind, this is my theory on Epstein. Epstein was an intelligence asset for the CIA or Mossad, and they might have found out after the fact when he was being prosecuted for the first time in, I think it's 2007, or he flipped during this time, and that's why he got such a light sentence. But obviously, because Ghislaine Maxwell's dad had a state funeral in Israel, attended by the Israeli leadership. So I also think, like, you know, someone like Epstein would be such good blackmail material for the CIA, Mossad, stuff like that. So there's still, you know, in my mind, when you read about Oswald, for example, you're like, if Oswald, like, it's so clear he worked in intelligence for the US. Oswald, what Oswald was it? Lee Harvey Oswald, because it was so clear he was in intelligence, and I was like, Epstein to me is so clearly an asset, like not trained by the CIA, not trained by Mossad. I don't believe that for a second, but he so clearly was an asset for some sort of intelligence service. And I also believe my theory on how Epstein died was it was a joint operation by the CIA and MI6, because he was probably threatening to start talking about Prince Andrew, Donald Trump, and Bill Clinton. That's my theory on it all. But yeah, like it's the Lee Harvey Oswald stuff is just like unbelievable. Let alone the fact that there's no way he could have done the killing. It's just like him being made this patsy is just pretty crazy as well. Anyway, I enjoyed the film, but like, because I know a lot about 1950s and 60s foreign policy, obviously I did my degree in international relations and stuff, like, I don't believe for a second. And also the thing is, JFK is the guy who escalated the Vietnam War. He was also, I don't think the CIA didn't go rogue. They let the army assassinate Diem in Vietnam, and once they assassinated Diem, there was no turning back. And JFK did that, not LBJ. So JFK really ramped up the Vietnam War in his presidency, and Oliver Stone seems to think that JFK was going to pull everyone out. He wasn't going to do that. The main thing of JFK is that he just didn't want to listen to the intelligence guys after the Bay of Pigs, and then he just fired a bunch of them. And that's how I can imagine that playing into stuff. But yeah, I don't believe for a second LBJ was involved, or it was for Vietnam. So I think that's a massive blind spot for Oliver Stone. I think it's for Cuba. You know, mafia kicked out of Havana. Mafia helped fund Cuban exiles and work with Baptista before. Intelligence service hate JFK, and they want to invade Cuba as well. So that, for me, you don't need to look further than Cuba, because that, you know, it's for me, it's like, what I feel like happened is it wasn't direct. I think it wasn't directed from the top, but I think it was covered up from the top. Like, I think a lot of people knew, high up people, after the fact, that the CIA was involved, but I don't think the CIA did it as like, here is Operation Kill JFK, keep it secret. I don't think that's what happened. I just think all this stuff together, like, I think because it clearly was covered up, like, that's the main thing. But then, in my mind, it wasn't covered up throughout. I just think in my mind, even like something like 9/11, which I'm going to talk about on Thursday, something like that, I don't believe in those theories anyway about 9/11, but like, something like that is just too big to be done from the top down. And that's why, like, if it was ever a conspiracy for that as well, it's like a bottom up thing. It's like local people helping other people do it, and then it gets covered up later. That's what I believe anyway. Anyway, I'll read some comments. All right, let's see what we got. Anyway, phone stream, fun. All right, let's see. Ziem was killed like 2 weeks before Kennedy, maybe 3 weeks. My hypothesis sounds very probable. Thanks, Caleb. All right, in the chat, who on JFK, who thinks I'm more likely right and who thinks I'm wrong? Like, who thinks something different, or who agrees with Oliver Stone where it was like LBJ for Vietnam or something? Yeah, MLK's family reject that guy killed him, the one who was caught at Heathrow. Oh, Redley, that's interesting about Epstein. Do you have a link? Epstein was Mossad. I mean, the thing is with Epstein and Mossad, like Ghislaine Maxwell would obviously be the person who flipped into Mossad. Um, yeah, Jacobin, like I was saying, I just think the CIA would have been so embedded with the mob and the Cubans. I think lower level CIA agents helped them do it. What's the Cowboy and the Yankee War? Is that a book? So I read some more stuff. They just let off. They're gonna let him out, aren't they? Yeah, the Robert Kennedy thing. Red Leader, if you're still in the chat, let me know if you got any info on this. The Robert Kennedy assassination, to me, makes no sense, right? Because Robert Kennedy obviously supported Israel, right? But Johnson was, after the war, became a massive supporter of Israel because he didn't want to get pulled into a Middle Eastern conflict and he thought Israel could be the US's proxy going forward, right? I don't understand why a Palestinian would specifically target Bobby Kennedy for assassination. Unless this guy's a bit like unhinged and stuff, I'm not sure if there's been like psych evals on him and stuff. I don't understand why a Palestinian would specifically target Bobby Kennedy out of everyone else. That's what I really don't understand. Like, with Mosley as a patsy, like it makes a bit more sense because you'd say, oh, he was brainwashed by the Soviets or he was like a triple agent or something. That makes more sense as like a patsy because he like, he's been doing like weird stuff as the intelligence. But like with the guy who killed Bobby Kennedy, I just like this makes no sense. And like, yeah, Bobby Kennedy was pro-Israel, but I'm like, he wasn't the biggest Oswald Mosley. I keep calling him Oswald Mosley because Oswald Mosley's the most famous British fascist. Lee Harvey Oswald, I'm saying. I talk too much about fascists on this channel. Um, but yeah, like that's what I don't understand. It's such a flimsy excuse, in my opinion. Like, yeah, Bobby Kennedy was pro-Israel. Most politicians were at the time after they defeated the Arabs in the Six-Day War and stuff. Um, so read some more comments. I don't know what are people saying. I love how you're whispering. Yeah, I just don't want to wake people up. I could start shouting like a madman. Sorry, someone had a good comment here. Sorry, going back up. Right, sorry, my chat just span all the way down. If Kavernacle ever stops making content, he didn't kill himself. Yeah, I'm on to them. I'm on to them. They're gonna get me. Yeah, Sam, that's interesting. The US federalized system doesn't lend itself to top-down conspiracy anyway. Yeah, that's interesting because yeah, obviously because of all the different state actors and like local institutions, that's an interesting point as well. I don't agree with Oliver. I'm undecided. You and I need to have a long talk about American conspiracies. Red Leader. The thing is, I wish it wasn't hard to talk about conspiracies on YouTube anymore. I'd like to make some videos on this. V saying I'm more on the side of being correct for sure. Luke has no opinion. Tom saying you're right. I've always thought the same. MK Bong saying LBJ wouldn't do that. Caleb saying I think JFK's support of civil rights helped hasten his demise. Yeah, possibly as well. That's another factor, I guess. It was the CIA, says Rye. Negatian saying, I think you're more likely to be right than Stone on this. I'm smarter than Oliver Stone, you're saying? Siran literally couldn't the bullets outnumber his revolver. Yeah, Red Leader. Do you think it's like the assassination of Do you think it's something like Malcolm X, where the FBI infiltrated Malcolm X's inner circle and knew he was going to be killed by Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, but they just let it happen? Do you think it's something like that, or do you think like something like that, including manipulating RFK's assassin to actually do it? Brandon saying, I've not the slightest clue, but your idea sounds way more plausible than Stone's by a mile. Awesome. Yeah, that's my main problem with Oliver Stone. Like, I think his reverence for JFK and his experience in Vietnam kind of warp his views on some certain things. I think with JFK, he just sees himself a bit. This is so long ago. They're going to release new documents about it at the end of the decade. Sorry, reading some more stuff. I think Oswald did fire one of the shots. JFK was not as far as they imply in the documentaries. You could have hit him with a good bow. Yeah, Caleb. The main thing that in the documentary, in the movie, what they have someone firing from the top floor, but they don't fire more than one shot. They fire one shot, not three. But then they also say it was pretty impossible for Lee Harvey Oswald to even be up there in the first place. Hey Sam, thanks so much for $2. Super appreciate that. It's really nice of you. You're a good guy. Laddie, we're talking about JFK. Jacobin Walsh saying official US involvement started with Eisenhower. The only good thing about Eisenhower, not a good thing, is that he didn't commit ground forces when the French asked him, but he did give them air support. Or did he give them air support? I'm trying to remember now. We did a whole big history lesson on the guy who led Dien Bien Phu, the French general. I forgot what his name was though. Yeah, Red Leader, but wasn't the CIA was the OSS before, wasn't it? So what? How is it intended to continue Nazism? Do you mean like actual Nazism, or do you mean like American fascism? Caleb, I think when fascism rises, leftism kind of comes out to meet it a bit more, but it's I don't know. Also, you can have it the other way around. It's like I guess it's like the 1930s in Europe or something, 1920s to 1930s. Um, yeah, Negatian. Bobby Kennedy was pretty left wing in the end. Like, I mean, not like some socialist, but he was pretty liberal. Where JFK definitely wasn't. But Bobby Kennedy used to be like worked for Joseph McCarthy during the Red Scare and stuff. But by the time he died, he was fairly progressive. Like some of the stuff, if you watch some of his speeches, some of the stuff he says is very interesting. Like he talks about like legalizing marijuana, talks about like you know you're not special for being born in America. Like you're just really lucky because you could have been born anywhere and live in really poor circumstances. But yeah, like yeah, he wasn't. People think he was like some sort of like left wing person, like crazy lefty. He wasn't, but he was more a left wing than his brother for sure. By the time he died, but that's probably just influenced by like the '60s politics, to be honest. I mean, who knows what would happen if he was president? Who knows if he would have beaten Nixon? You can't predict these things. Some people think he wouldn't have beaten Nixon, um, and it was a really close election anyway. Um, Francisco saying Oliver Stone had a 13 part doc called The Untitled History of the United States. It's pretty interesting. Have you heard about it? Also got into his channel because of Metal Gear Solid algorithm. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoy my Metal Gear Solid videos actually. I had someone argue with me yesterday that again, even though I made a whole video debunking this, saying Hideo Kojima is actually right wing and he's not left wing, and I'm just like, I'm so bored of arguing with people. That guy who simps for Che Guevara, and is like, anti-US imperialism, and likes a lot of communist stuff, probably is a left wing person and not a right winger. Francisco, I don't know if you wait. Okay, it looked like you were wearing an eye patch in your profile picture. I thought you had like Snake Plissken from Escape from New York as your thing. Um, yeah, Red Leader, I definitely need to read up on this. I've never really been into RFK theories as much as JFK. Hey, Katie, thanks for joining. Yeah, that Eisenhower military industrial complex speech is really interesting. It plays at the start of JFK, but then I need to read the Smedley Butler book. Is there like a free PDF of it? I think it's only like 90 pages long or something. I might want to read it. I might even do a review of it if I read it on my channel. No, Red Leader, I've never heard of this before. Yeah, Cassini, he said it on the Harry Belafonte talk show. Really, that's interesting. You're gonna have to send me some of this stuff. I've never heard of this before. Negation, thank you for your responses to my statements. No problem. Right, Ted Kennedy was more. Sorry, just skipped forward. Was more left wing than RFK. Called for single payer, federal jobs guarantee, and price controls. Yeah, Ted Kennedy. I mean, he was all right for like a senator and stuff, but like the sort of a threshold, or what am I talking about here? Just the standard of American like liberal politicians is so bad that makes Ted Kennedy look so much better. I'm not sure if I agree with you, Red Leader, but I need to read what you've been reading. Like I totally like you. I've spoken about it loads, but yeah, I totally know that basically every single fascist who did the Holocaust was let off the hook by America. Oh, right, 3, 2, 1, charge. Right, let me change the charger up. Alright, come on. If my stream quickly dies, it's because my phone ran out of battery. And there's no way to check. Oh, it looks alright. We've got a bit more charge. What? Wait. Okay. Yeah, Katie, I've had those big arguments with my parents that just go on for ages and ages. Like, I was arguing with my parents a couple of weeks back about like social housing and like free food and shit like that. Just very frustrating. And I wrote on Twitter, my parents are decent people and stuff. Like, they're not horrible, they're not right wingers or anything, but just like the sort of hating poor people really seeps into so much of just normal people's discourse. Like, I was talking about like 4 million people use food banks in 2018. My dad says that half of them probably just wanted free food, and it's like, no one goes to a food bank for free food. A very probably tiny minority would go. Whiskey Bitness, thanks so much for $2. Super appreciate that. Been loving your content. Thank you, dude. No problem. I enjoy making it, and nice words and donations are always appreciated. So very nice of you. Yeah, Kasani, I made a video on all this stuff ages ago. Um, EcoFlower, yo, what's up, bro? Love your videos. Glad I could catch a stream. Thanks so much for the nice words. I like your General Grievous picture from the cartoon in Clone Wars. Yeah, sorry, what was I saying? But yeah, like I obviously know every fascist in like Greece, Japan, even Germany, basically let off the hook, and in France as well by the West to fight the Soviets. I do find it hard to believe that the CIA was created to literally spread like National Socialism Nazi style. I mean, I'm open to like having my mind changed a bit, but just because it's like an extension of the OSS, which obviously helps like fight fascists and stuff, I don't know. Not because they didn't hate fascism, but you know, OSS were like helping Ho Chi Minh fight the Japanese and stuff like that. Um, Yeah, Sam, I agree with that as well. I actually listened to an interview with Oliver Stone talking about this history stuff. Um, I think his opinion of Cold War politics that like it's all down to Truman. Because but here's the thing, Truman was way happier to back the empires recolonializing parts of the world, like in Vietnam or like North Africa and stuff. Truman was happy enough for that, but it really remains to be seen. As much as you know, Roosevelt didn't like British imperialism because it like threatened American power rather than he was like some great anti-imperialist. It remains to be seen if Roosevelt would have done the same thing. Like I just don't know. Um, Red leader. It's probably because the UK was way more at threat from the Soviet Union than the US was. Like, if there was like a small scale war in like Germany or like in Western Europe. I mean, they hated commies, but they also did help like some communists like Ho Chi Minh. Katie saying, my dad isn't a bad guy or a right winger. He's pretty liberal and even has some good opinions, but he is all about doing things a legal way. And I'm like, well, you're out of time. Yeah, Katie, I think it's like what you're saying. It reminds me of my parents a bit. It's just like a generational thing, isn't it? It's very frustrating. I was thinking about this the other day. Let me know in the comments if you guys feel like this. I was thinking the other day, like, I just want like I just want a stable income. I just want like a nice apartment or house with my girlfriend, and I just want to live like a kind of normal life, just kind of doing this YouTube stuff, like hopefully like finishing my book one day and stuff like that. Like that's all I want. It's not too much to ask, but but this is the thing for me. It feels like this is unattainable. It feels like I can't have a stable income and like get my own place and like live in a nice place and stuff. It feels like that is unattainable now, and that has been like that's the annoying thing with people who are older is that they could even get these things, but now for a lot of a generation that feels like a dream. If you can afford a house in like the UK and you can afford your mortgage and like the bills and stuff and have a bit left over, that's like a fucking dream now. But in you know my dad's generation, he's worked as like in like IT sales for years. Like to be fair, he's worked really hard, but it's like you got the corporate ladder. He worked his way up from the bottom to the top, essentially, and then you can get the normal like white picket fence life. Like you know he had 4 children. My mum didn't have to work when she got older because she could just look after the children and stuff. has a nice car and everything. We go on, when we were kids, used to go on holiday like once a year to Spain and stuff like. So all like pretty ordinary but pretty nice life and stuff. But now, like these days, what I get stressed about in the back of my mind, I'm like, that just does not feel like it's in my future. I'm just like, it feels so unattainable now. And how depressing is that? Just like a really, really basic life, which I'd be happy, because I was thinking, I'm not like a materialistic person. Like I don't want a flashy car. I don't want like £1 million. In theory, I don't want that. But is that what it's going to take now to just be comfortable? I'm going to have to like get £1 million or something, and that's what's so frustrating is because like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I've got to like hustle and get this flash car, get this corporate office job, sales job, work really late nights, get all this commission, or have like a side hustle, trade in stocks. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. Like seriously, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. And I'm lucky. I'm with someone, my girlfriend, who thinks very similar to me. But then at the same time, I'm just like, it's just gonna be. I'm just gonna have no money. Like I'm just gonna be grinding YouTube, and like thankfully because I still live at home and stuff, it's fine at the moment, and my income's fine at the moment, but it's like it is a bit of a grind, and it worries me because I'm just like, my whole income is tied to like numbers going up and down on a screen. I know I have Patreon, and thanks so much to the people who are patrons. So that's the goal, to grow that enough where that covers my monthly income and the ad revenue is bonus. But at the moment it's the other way around, where the monthly income is the most of my income and the Patreon is a bonus. But yeah, it just feels in general it's just so unattainable these days, and it's just very like disheartening. And that's even without thinking about like existential shit like climate change and like war and the Tory government in the UK. Like that's even me, and for me like it's annoying. I feel way more fragile now since I started having neurological problems, and it's also crazy. I started having neurological problems 2 years ago. Time flies so quickly. People who've been subscribed to me for the last 2 years might remember when it happened, but it's like I think it's so directly tied to stress for me, and it's shit because it's made me such a more fragile person in terms of like, just like I'm so sensitive to how stuff affects my neurological issues and stuff, which is crap. But but that's what stresses me out at night. I'm just like I can't. I'm just not gonna to be able to afford a normal life. And the only saving grace is that my dad told me that my granddad, who's like, because he's older and stuff, older people, like has a bit of money, that he probably will give me like a fairly sizable inheritance compared to like us having quite a big family, like not something you'd normally get. And it's like, is that what I'm gonna have to rely on to like afford a normal life? Inheritance from my granddad? Like I'm just gonna have to have a relative die, and even like when my dad passes away one day, it'll probably be a similar thing. But when I die, my kids and especially my grandkids, they're probably gonna have nothing. Like I'm not gonna have the money to like hand them off like thousands of pounds or something like that. And it's just like it's just a very depressing thought. Is that I've got a really good education, I have a master's degree, and I still couldn't get a good job. The job I had. The reason it was so appealing to quit my job for YouTube is because the job I had was paying like shit, and I had to travel up London every day. I would literally go to bed at 1:30 and get up at 6:30 every day, and I'd make 2 YouTube videos a week, and I played semi-pro football, so that was like 2 training sessions a week and a game on a Saturday, and I had to work out as well, and it's like my life fucking sucked, and I was just like, just time to quit it. And I quit football as well, just because trying to simplify my life. But at the same time, it's like now all the stress is about just the future and everything. And also, like, I don't know how old you guys are. Getting older, I'm just even like my body, like I'm noticing it now. Like I was talking about like earlier, this part of my arm is I've done something to it, lifting weights, and then I fucked up my knee 2 years ago. And it's still not better. Like, and it's like I'm only 25, and I'm thinking like when I was 23, I was in such good shape. Like I was playing football all the time. I could run around like crazy, like a maniac. And I was feeling like I was like 15, and now I'm 25. I feel like I'm slowly. I literally like everything, like mentally, neurologically, physically. I think I'm just deteriorating, and I wonder what it's gonna feel like when I get to 35. I probably feel like complete shit, to be honest. I did order an exercise bike. I finally want to rehab my knee like properly. I've been trying a lot more in the last couple of months, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I also it is a fun question for the chat. I'm gonna make a video on 9/11 tomorrow, and my main thing is how many of you remember 9/11? I guess is a good thing to start with. How many people in the chat actually remember 9/11? How many people were born after 9/11? That fucks me up. Um, and then another thing is like, what do you think is the most important to include in a 9/11 video for the 20th anniversary? So so for me, I'm gonna clickbait it. Not really, because I want to talk about this for a long time. I want to talk about the Hassan Piker, about like deserving it basically. I just want to like revisit that. It happened like 2 years ago now. But I wanted to make a video on that for a while, so I'm gonna do that. But then there's stuff I don't want to miss out. So for me, because I wrote my dissertation for my history degree on the Carter administration's foreign policy. I wrote a lot about Operation Cyclone, which was non-military aid to the Mujahideen to fight the Soviets and the communist government in Afghanistan. So I'm going to include that, and I'm going to include stuff about the MAK. So if you guys don't know, the MAK was basically original Al Qaeda. It was set up by Bin Laden during the Soviet-Afghan War, and it basically was to transport and fund foreign jihadists from like Egypt, sometimes even like Chechnya, all the way to Afghanistan to fight the Soviets. And then after that, the thing is, what people don't understand is like, it's not simple. It's not the CIA and intelligence service didn't know what Al Qaeda was until like I think 1993. Yeah, and they found them in like Sudan or something, or maybe Somalia, and they didn't even give a shit because it was like 100 people in it. Like they literally did not care, and like it was basically it was really on its knees for a long time, Al Qaeda, and then Mullah Omar, I think Bin Laden got in contact with him. He's like, can we come to Afghanistan, like on the border of Pakistan, just to have like a bit of a base, and that's why the US obviously like blame the Taliban for like 9/11 and stuff. But the main thing I want to talk about is like why Al Qaeda existed in the first place. Like it existed obviously because of Israel. You know, Israel is like a big example of why they exist. But also Operation Desert Shield, which is before Desert Storm. It's they send thousands of US troops to Saudi Arabia to defend it from Saddam Hussein. But to a lot of people, having infidels in Saudi Arabia just not on for like people like Bin Laden, for example. So I wanted to talk about this when Hassan said America like deserved 9/11, and then because I wanted to say like something like 9/11 it might have been inevitable, but like deserve. I want to talk about deserve in terms of like the moral sense and also like the practical sense. Like did America do something that inspired 9/11? And I would say not directly like it. Like I'd say the reasons that inspired 9/11 are not something that America like did. It wasn't like one-off event. It was mainly it was like stuff like Operation Desert Shield and like deployment in Saudi Arabia. It was also like historically supporting Israel, and obviously is it in Lebanon you have that big truck bomb in 1982, I think, which is like I think that's Hezbollah though. So yeah, like it'd be an interesting video. Um, and also like I was asking my parents about this. I was like, I also want to talk about this in the video. It's very interesting to me how like not the thing is 9/11 is so devastating because it's like captured in like 4K as people say these days. In that like I've watched so many documentaries on it, and you hear it from every angle. So I was watching one last night, and it was the military. It was radio interviews. It was radio calls between the military and like Air Force when 9/11 was happening, and like and that's like one side of it. And then you can hear all the phone calls from people on the plane, and then you can hear the phone calls from people in the towers, and you can see all the images. And because it's in like the most famous city in the world, this is happening, and the media like it is more modern 2001, so you can hear and you can see all of it. But like relatively speaking, 3,000 people, and obviously the fashion, it's just insanely dramatic, like hijacking airliners. But then I was saying to my parents, I was like, so much shit like that has happened in the history of the world that you just don't see or talk about. Like think about Vietnam, for example. Like was it like 4 million Vietnamese dead, probably a lot more. The US regularly bombed Hanoi, like bombed the shit out of Hanoi, I'm pretty sure there's probably examples of single bombing campaigns that probably killed more than 3,000. And it's like, obviously, we don't remember that, we don't care about that. And why don't we care about that? And also, in terms of the justification thing, if a bunch of North Vietnamese during the war did 9/11, is that justified? And that's just like an interesting question. Is like, and it's very very. And one thing I say about 9/11, it's very very fitting. It was done by Al Qaeda and not some sort of national group, because it was done by Al Qaeda. You can paint all Muslim countries as complicit. That's how 69% of Americans believe Saddam Hussein had some sort of involvement with 9/11, because to Americans generally anyway, and because of the media hysteria, they're just all Muslims. Of course, Saddam Hussein, he's bad, so he must have been in league with Al Qaeda, even though Bin Laden celebrated his death because they hated each other. Because obviously, Saddam Hussein was Arab socialist, Al Qaeda Islamic Wahhabi fundamentalists, but like, because it was Al Qaeda, it's such a broad brush. So Taliban did it, Saddam Hussein did it. Who cares? Iran probably had some involvement with it as well. And because we have the axis of evil, the Americans could go. They were all in on it. All Muslim, all Muslim authoritarian countries were in on it. Of course they were, and that's so helpful, because if Iraq actually did 9/11, you couldn't blame the other countries. But because it was Al Qaeda, who was like this multinational group, and it like one guy from Lebanon, a couple from Lebanon, a couple from Egypt, most of them are Saudis and stuff. But then it's so helpful to US interests that they can just be like, yeah, all Muslims did it. But yes, it's an interesting moral question. It's like, well, the US has killed millions and millions around the world. That's obviously not justified. If North Vietnam in the 70s did this in response for the US bombing raids, would that be justified? And obviously, to me, like, targeting civilians is never justified. But in terms of like the US have done it, and that's the thing. Like, I think as we move further and further away from this, it's the 20th anniversary now, but I think as we move further and further away, I think it becomes less taboo to talk about, like, not that the UN, like the people. It's one of the most horrific things you can watch, because it's caught in such high definition on TV, on phone, on camera, and everything like that. But in terms of like, what Hassan was saying, so I was watching his interview with Cenk about this stuff. It's like, you can't just go around doing this stuff and not expect someone one day to do this back. But I think the ironic thing is Al Qaeda as this institution is not like a national group that has specific grievances. It's like Al Qaeda's grievances mainly are like from an ideological perspective and like a theoretical perspective. It's not actually about Bin Laden was personally wronged by the US, or it's like a group like, I don't know, the North Vietnamese or the National Liberation Front in Vietnam, who obviously have their main problems with the US because they're brutalizing their country. It's nothing like that. It's just like, most of them are Saudis, most of them are fundamentalists, and they're attacking the US for purely ideological reasons. And it's Bin Laden was not on the front lines against the Soviets. He was involved in facilitating fighters there, but like, Bin Laden wasn't like leading raids on like Soviet outposts and stuff. Anyway, it's interesting. I'm going to take some comments now. I was in college. Damn, it must have been. I was only 6 years old, so I don't really remember. I do a tiny bit. I was 31. Damn, that must have been so fucking weird to see. I was in fourth grade. Oh, you're a bit older than me. I'm so irked about every anniversary. Um, you're in preschool and your mum picked you up. I was a young kid. I was in second grade. I wasn't even alive. Watching on TV. Freshman, I was 7. I was 2. I was 2. I watched TV on the first day of kindergarten. Oh, Caleb, I'm sorry to hear about that. I just read your comment about your granddad. America is so fucked up, man. Like, how can you charge someone like such a massive bill when they're dead? It should just be written off. I'm so old. Shut the fuck up, Cav. um, I felt like you and I was your age, trust me, you haven't seen half of it yet. Do some PT. Yeah, I'm too fucking lazy to. I do PT, but I'm too fucking lazy to go see more therapists. I'm spending so much money on shit lately. I'm trying to save up. I have some savings, but I just feel like I haven't saved enough this year really. Um, haven't touched any of the Patreon money, to be honest. That's my real savings. Um, yeah, costlier tragedies than 9/11 have happened in the 21st century, and they've often been perpetrated by the US. Exactly. Hey, base mum, thanks for joining. Well, obviously, yeah, the main thing we're going to talk about is how 9/11 was just used to justify some of the most like horrific stuff in the last 20 years. So this is interesting. Blastmaster said I was in eighth grade, which is the perfect age to remember the world before 9/11, and then grow up in the post 9/11 world. It gave me a lot of perspective about America and the world. Yeah, that is really interesting. Like, and I said this in my video yesterday, about talking to people on stream who are my age, but then talking about people who are about 6 or 7 years younger, who don't remember any of this stuff. Like, Afghanistan, like British involvement in Afghanistan largely ended in 2014. Iraq 2011, and that stuff kind of continues. But I remember watching Afghanistan on the news. I remember watching Iraq on the news. I remember watching Lebanon, Israel on the news, 2006. Because I used to love watching the news. I was a weird kid. I just loved history and stuff. But people just don't remember that stuff. And I think, like I was saying, the response to Israel Palestine this time is different because people aren't as brainwashed about Hamas being like an extension of Al Qaeda or something, and they just think, well, yeah, Hamas are obviously awful, but it's quite obvious to us they're a reaction to something. Whereas in the past, it's kind of like all Muslim insurgent groups are all the same, and they're all like ruled by Bin Laden or something. Um, I will get so much hate. Kate, yeah, Kate, I'm gonna be quite tactful about it. I'm not just gonna come out and say like, maybe not as casual as what I'm saying now. Um, I'll read some more stuff. Damn, Francisco, that's brutal. Yeah, I'm glad my mum didn't let me watch a lot of it, to be honest. Your mum took you out of school. Damn, in Kentucky. Yeah, they don't care until it happens to them. That is true. That is true. Um, Good thing we spent a decade calling Saddam Hitler. Oh shit! That reminds me. I saw something about Disney Channel, and it's got like Shia LaBeouf and like all the actors talking about why they love America, and it's after 9/11. I need to find that video. And there's another one about Oprah promoting the Iraq War. So I got to include this stuff. This could be its own fucking video though. So maybe the title can be Hassan's 9/11 comments and something about, I don't know, Disney Disney Channel promoting the Iraq War, some crap. Hikmet, Saddam is it's Arab socialism. It's not socialism. It's like a basically it's pretty much centered around getting rid of Israel, but it's kind of like an authoritarian way of structuring your society as well around the military. Your uncle, I wouldn't do that because I actually hurt it from running up, from walking up hills in the first place. I'd be too scared. Um, Nerdette, if you're still in the chat, message me on Instagram. Uh, I don't really like giving out my email. But yeah, Nerdette, if you're in the chat, message me on Discord or on Instagram. Both of them are quite easy to find. The Instagram's just at the Kavernacle, so message me there. or yeah, Discord or whatever, or Reddit, whatever you have. You probably have one of them. Um, so reading some more stuff. On us, like I could like Onelus is like the oldest subscriber I have here, so he probably remembers I didn't cover it when it came out, but like can you imagine? Like am I that much of a clickbaiter? Like can I seriously title the video Hassan Piker was right about 9/11 and then just play the clip of him straight away? To be honest, um, you people will know I'm super paranoid about getting my YouTube channel banned. So I wouldn't I can't. The thing is, I know the views would be so good, and I just can't do it. I can't do it. I have these moments a lot, and I'm like, but I can't do it. I just. The thing is, right. What I'm really paranoid about after the courting stuff that happened in March, I'm really paranoid about giving reactionaries a very easy way to target my content and flag it. Like, so I'm not gonna do it because I just know reactionaries will find it, start flagging it to YouTube, and then the video will get taken down. I might get like a community strike for hate speech or some crap like that. I will put Hassan in the title, but yeah, man, if I if I did, oh fucking hell, I don't know if anyone has a sense of humor. Sometimes I really laugh about stuff I want to say and that I could say, but I will never say. It's a really fucking weird thing that I laugh at about. Fucking me, like I'm cracking up thinking about it. It'd be so fucking funny. Like I can just imagine like getting so many comments straight away. Fuck. The thing is, in some weird ways, that's why I respect people like Vosh, because I tweeted this once. I'm so careful about what I talk about because I'm so paranoid about like YouTube flagging it, and then he'll just upload something with like loads of shit I will never talk about, and I'm like, oh my god, like, not only are you clickbaiting the hell out of his title, which YouTube would hate the topic you're talking about, you're literally talking about this for like an hour as well, and I'm just like, I just don't understand how people like get so well, I respect it a lot, but then obviously I'm not Vosh. Like, if my channel got taken down, I'm fucked basically. Whereas if his channel, he's got two channels anyway, but he's also famous enough that if he made a comeback, people would watch him again. Like he's got to that point where he's famous enough that if something bad happened to one of his channels, he'd be alright. But if my channel got flagged and deleted, basically I'd be screwed because it's taken so long to get this far. And like obviously loads of you would never ever find my channel again if I set up a new one. Obviously I have my second channel where I post the streams and stuff. But like yeah, you basically I'd lose most of my subscribers forever, to be honest. The only way I'd get them back is if I collabed with loads of people and just started popping up everywhere. But yeah, I'm not that brazen. Vosh is extremely brazen. Like I literally cannot believe some of his titles sometimes, and but I admit I am very paranoid about what I can talk about on YouTube. But like, I respect how he just like doesn't give a shit at all. All right, read some more stuff. Baphism is cringe. Yep. Reading some more stuff. All right, I'll take a couple more comments. The Jimmy store stand is back. Yeah, he just likes getting dunked on by me, I think. Um, hate speech against America. Oh shit. Sorry, just checking my battery. Um, I heard some real shit was going down. Red Man banned. What do you mean from with Jeremy from the court ring? Do you mean he's saying that he might be in legal trouble or something, or is anything else? But that's all I know. Yeah, TY, I did see that meme. Putting the quote on the thumbnail. I mean, that is a way I can get around it. Don't listen to the chat. Yeah, Brandon, don't worry. I'm as much as I'd love to do it. Yeah, you get a lot of traffic. As much as I'd love to do it, just for the really really quick engagement. No. Cav, are you a fan of Vosh? Here's my like. Oh shit! Sorry, my stupid battery keeps. Am I a fan of Vosh? People ask me this a bit. I'll give my take on it quick. Basically, I don't hate Vosh like a lot of people hate Vosh. To be honest, I try and like tolerate people like to an extent because like I've been trying to tolerate Shoe on Head because one of my friends told me she was okay, and then I'm just like I don't know what you guys were talking about. Like this person, like their takes are so bad, and then people like Amazing Atheist is good now, and I go watch their content. I'm like nope. The thing with Vosh is like I don't. I see loads of his bad takes, right? And I think and the only thing I'll say is I think he falls into the trap a lot of what's it, a lot of you're seeing it with like this discourse about patriotic socialism in America. I think the Overton window in America is so shifted to the right that a lot of these people think they're a lot more left wing than they actually are, and I think it comes from a place in America. You're so like and I think it's inescapable for anyone in any country. Like in Britain, I've said this in my last video. Like the way I used to view Muslims, not like Muslims as an individual, but like as a religion and as a society and stuff. Because of the media during the war on terror, I think I had a lot of ingrained bigotry against Muslims, and it took me a while to like really get over that. I think that's why I was quite drawn to people like Sam Harris when I was like 18 or something, and before realizing these people are Western chauvinists and stuff. But I think with a lot of Americans, even leftists, that they still have a lot of American supremacy in them to an extent. So the main thing with Vosh, I think his takes on foreign policy, and this extends to people like David Packman, their takes on foreign policy are pretty bad. And for me, I'm lucky enough that because I have like an Irish background with people who treat like shit, people in like the IRA or the IRB, and family members who had to migrate to England and stuff and not treated very well. I feel like I at least have more sympathy with like oppressed groups in terms of my it's only like two generations back. That's my own family. Even my mum, who has an English accent, she said people used to say stuff to them when they were at school, and you still have sectarianism in Scotland and stuff towards Catholics and Irish people and stuff. So I feel like that's good for my personal experience. I'm also from a country that isn't like completely rabidly anti-socialist as well. So like it's not like if in this country if you're for universal healthcare then suddenly you're some big socialist. That's just not what happens. And I think with people like I believe like Vosh is like an American leftist. Like I will not say Vosh is like an American liberal because I don't believe he's like an American liberal. That's like David Packman to me. But I also think Vosh's audience. I wanted to tweet this today. We follow each other on Twitter, like, and I think he thinks my stuff's okay and everything. And like I don't hate him like completely, but I think his audience are super immature because they've been criticizing me, saying they're having a go at me. I saw on the Reddit because I criticized the Amazing Atheists for like having some weird racial blind spots and shit like that. I'm just like, this is what because Vosh spoke to him twice. This guy must be like above criticism or some shit. He has like this real cult following, but I think with him and Hassan, what they're good for is appealing to young people. But what I like to see is a lot of people in my comments have said, yeah, I've outgrown Vosh, I've outgrown Hassan, and I've watched these people now. And then it just shows that they're useful for this pipelining and stuff, or maybe like more mainly like sort of like TYT were back in the day, like normalizing more left wing beliefs and stuff. And that's what TYT I think was good for. But then obviously you have someone like Cenk Uygur, who's still very like more liberal, where Anna Kasparian, who's more is young and seems like they've evolved a lot more, is more left leaning now and stuff. But yeah, generally, like I just don't hate his content. I just think, like a lot of Americans, their foreign stuff is really, really bad. I also think, like many Americans as well, their knowledge of history is really bad, and it's just like a general thing with Americans I often experience. And most of you guys are Americans, and I don't think all Americans are idiots and don't get taught, and don't know history or politics and stuff. But I think American education is fundamentally more inward looking, and also you just don't have that personal experience. Like I was saying before, because the UK was in the European Union, you take school trips to France. Like you get the train to France, you get the boat to France. It doesn't take long, or Belgium, or like Holland, or Austria, or like other places in Europe. So even if your like education's not great, most people in Britain, just even through schools, will have some experience of another country. Where most Americans, I think, a large majority, not a large majority, a large section of Americans don't even have passports. So I think like it's just a general thing of Americans are more inward looking, and even like I was saying with the American patriot socialist discourse, it's like if you live outside America, there's no way you think these things are compatible, but some Americans think socialism and patriotism is compatible. But anyway, I don't hate him, but I wouldn't say we're exactly the same either. But the thing is, most people who watch my stuff also watch him. I've seen it in the analytics. Most people who watch my stuff also watch Hassan and Vosh. I mean, I'm well aware. Like, all right. Sorry, read some more comments. I haven't watched Hakeem before, so I was gonna watch his North Korea video, but I forgot. American students rarely get domestic field trips, let alone international field trips. I can drive 8 hours and still be in my own state. That's pretty crazy, to be honest. We're barely taught our own history yet. Um, um, no, Sean Head isn't left wing. I wouldn't say. David Patman is Jewish. Jews are treated very bad, yet you regard his views as bad. What? So having oppressed ancestors actually means you have pro-life views. Negative, and that's not what I was saying. Is for me, yeah, okay, maybe that could be the case with David Pacman. There are also people, uh, the president of or the prime minister is the president of prime minister De Valera, who was in the IRB with my relative, was a awful president. This is a guy who actually organised the fight against the British and stuff. Doesn't necessarily mean that, but I had family who were killed by the British. I had family who migrated to England and were treated really bad for being Irish. So in my mind, that makes me more sympathetic to more like people being discriminated against and oppression and colonialism and stuff like that. It doesn't mean that's a certainty. David Pacman is also, yeah, while he might be Jewish, apparently he's upper class and he's from Argentina as well. Um, but his views are bad. Yeah, like not awful. I said in my video, I don't hate everything he says. I don't think he's the worst person ever. I just think a lot of his views are quite problematic. The same way, I don't agree with Malcolm X's like anti-Semitism. I said that in my video about him. I said, his anti-Zionism included a lot of anti-Semitic tropes, but the point of me including it was to show that he wasn't pro-Israel. All right, take on more comments. I probably should go now before my phone completely dies. Um, Sean Head said Black Lives Matter was a black supremacist organization, so yeah, Vosh needs to read more history. I think that's I think that's what most American leftists need to. Yeah, De Valera was a traitor. Yeah, and sent condolences to Germany after Hitler killed himself. So that is bad. All right, I'll end on this comment. This makes me laugh. Um, the common denominator between you and Vosh is you semi-regularly discuss furries. That is true. That is true. Um, all right. Anyone else have to say? Why are we in your armpit today? Just because I'm holding onto the table. All right. Yeah, fun stream. I enjoyed that actually. Oh shit, they've done it for 2 hours. I thought it was gonna be a short one today. Um, yeah, so that is it. Thanks for the chat. I enjoyed talking about socialist patriots and JFK and everything. 9/11 video tomorrow. Let's see what I'll tie on it. Point of view under Cav's wing. Exactly. I'm taking you all under my wing, even though a lot of you are like so much fucking older than me. Even though some of you are like 20 years older than me. Oh, Katie, thanks so much for the donation. Super appreciate that. Everyone, Katie is like funding my like hedonistic lifestyle. But no, I super appreciate it, Katie. You know, too nice giving me donations regularly. It's incentivizing. Katie's incentivizing me to actually stream more because I've been so bad at it lately. But yeah, really appreciate it, Katie. Thanks so much. I like the live streams the best. I appreciate that, Cassini. I'm hopefully get some sort of gaming camera. I want to live stream games at some point. I live streamed Tetris before. See you, Cav. Do not say that. Sorry, Katie. Yeah, Redman, I'm going to release it tomorrow when it's 9/11 for me, but I'm not going to wait an extra day. Amity, the Ronaldo stuff, I mean, who knows? I guess the case was settled once, but yeah, I don't know. If you like believe the allegations, obviously don't get the Ronaldo shirt. Further trial the Americans by releasing it on 11/9. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Americans get funny. Someone was having a go at me. That's another weird comment. Having a go at me for like getting the date wrong on some tweet, and I was like, nah, this is British date. It's like, it's the right way to do it, not the weird American way. Yeah, no, I wanted to do my 9/11 video early because wait, I thought 9/11 was on the weekend. Is it next week? Because I was gonna do it early because I was like, I'm not gonna upload on the weekend. Actually, yeah, I got confused. I thought 9/11 was tomorrow because of the stupid American Day. But yeah, no, I did know before that it was next. I thought it was on the wait. Yeah, 9/11 is on Saturday. Oh shit. I thought it was on Sunday. Maybe I'll. Oh damn! This is throwing my schedule out the window. I now am considering postponing the 9/11 video. We'll see. I might do it tomorrow still, because you guys will know I don't upload on a Saturday or a Sunday. But then I don't know. Could we do it on Friday? It's Saturday. Okay, maybe let's do 9/11 on. Okay. Well, what the fuck can I do a video on tomorrow? All right, here's the plan, everyone. We're doing my Shang-Chi video. The actor of Shang-Chi, or whatever, I don't know what the fucking character's called. He called out the quartering on his Instagram, so I definitely want to make a video on that. Okay, I'll think about this. Maybe I'll push the 9/11 video till Friday, one day earlier. Do it Monday. Do it on the 11th of. Do it on the 9th of November. Oscar Isaac playing Solid Snake. I do love Oscar Isaac. A Most Violent Year, that's the best movie he's done. Yeah, he did. He posted on his Instagram because they're all saying his film was a flop. And he was like, yeah, it's not a flop. It's like broke records for like pandemic box office and stuff. I'm probably going to talk about the racism because I've seen loads of comments calling him like Xi Jinping and shit like that. So I just want to talk about the anti-SJWs and stuff. You know, it's bait. It's bait. But like my video on Monday demonetized. This 9/11 one's getting demonetized. Redman, you got to message me some of this shit on Discord or Instagram. Like, I'm gonna research this when I go off. All right. So we'll leave it here. Hopefully I'll get the stream VOD as well. Because it's on my phone. I'm just gonna see. I don't want it to go out public. Okay. Anyway, thanks so much, Katie, and everyone else who gave me a donation tonight. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed the stream. Actually, I enjoy the stream if it goes above 1 hour and a half. Because normally I'll do an hour and go off. But yeah, have a good rest of your week. Look out for a video tomorrow of some description. I'm not sure which one, and I will stream again on Thursday. So look forward to that. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and I'll see you in the next one.